Commander Jiwoo had seen many things in his 30 years of service, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Standing on the bridge of Earth's main defense station, he watched through the massive viewing window as alien ships appeared in the sky. The ships were enormous, each one the size of a city. They moved in perfect formation, blocking out the stars and casting dark shadows across the Earth below the communication system crackled to life. Admiral Hyok rushed into the command center. His face pale with worry. Behind him came Captain Minji, the top military strategist on Earth. She carried a datapad in her hands and her expression was grim. The entire bridge crew turned to look at them, waiting for news that everyone knew would change everything. "We have a problem," Admiral Hyok announced to the room. His voice was steady, but Gu could hear the tension underneath. "The alien fleet has sent us a message. They call themselves the Galactic Empire, and they have demands." The main screen lit up, showing the face of the alien messenger. It was a creature unlike anything humans had ever seen before. The being had 4 arms, each ending in sharp claws. Its skin was dark purple and covered in scales that seemed to shift color in the light, but the most frightening feature was its eyes, which glowed bright red like burning coals. "Greetings, primitive species," the alien spoke in perfect human language, though its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Commander Vex of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been located and cataloged. You will now comply with standard Imperial protocol." Captain Mingi stepped forward, her jaw set in determination. "What exactly does that mean?" she asked, though her voice remained calm. The alien creature smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Every world in our galaxy must pay tribute to the Empire. This is not a request. It is a command. You will provide half of all your natural resources, half of your population to serve as workers in our mines and factories, and you will surrender all military forces to Imperial command." Bridge fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The weight of the alien's words settled over them like a heavy blanket. Commander Jiwoo felt his heart pounding in his chest. This was what Earth had been preparing for, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real in a way that all their planning had not named. "If we refuse," Admiral Hyok asked, his voice barely above a whisper, "then your world will be destroyed," the alien replied. "With casual indifference, we have done this to 10,000 worlds before you. Some chose to comply and still exist as Imperial territories. Others chose resistance and are now nothing but dust floating in space. The choice is yours. How long do we have?" Captain Minji demanded. "You have 7 of your Earth days to prepare the tribute and surrender your forces. After that time, if you have not complied, we will begin the destruction of your major cities. We will continue until you submit or until there is nothing left to destroy." The communication ended, and the alien face disappeared from the screen. The bridge remained silent for several long moments. Everyone was processing what they had just heard. The threat was real and immediate. Earth had 1 week to decide between slavery and death. Taiyun, the lead scientist for Earth's defense project, entered the bridge at that moment. He was a tall, thin man with kind eyes and graying hair. He had been working on secret projects for the government for over 20 years, and he knew more about Earth's hidden capabilities than almost anyone. "I heard the transmission," he said quietly, walking over to join the group at the command station. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking slightly. "We always knew this day would come. The question is, what do we do about it?" "We can't fight them," Captain Minji said, looking at the readings from the sensor array. "They have over 1,000 ships out there. Each one is more powerful than our entire fleet. Combined, we have maybe 50 ships that could match even one of theirs, and that's being generous." "Then we surrender," Admiral Hyok said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We find a way to minimize the damage to our people. Maybe we can negotiate better terms." "No," Dr. Taiyun said firmly, surprising everyone with his sudden decisiveness. "We don't fight them and we don't surrender. There's a third option." "What are you talking about?" Commander Jiwoo asked. "What if we don't fight them at all?" Dr. Taiyun continued, his voice growing stronger. "What if we just left?" The suggestion was so unexpected that nobody responded at first. Captain Minji was the first to speak. "Leave? How exactly do you propose we leave? They have ships surrounding our entire planet." Dr. Taiyun moved to the main console and began pulling up classified files that most of the bridge crew had never seen before. "For the past 50 years, ever since we first detected alien signals, we have been preparing for this possibility. We have been working On something called Project Exodus, the main screen now showed technical diagrams and construction plans that looked like nothing the military officers had ever seen before. There were massive engines designed to be built into the planet's crust, energy systems that could power entire continents, and gravitational manipulators that seemed to belong in science fiction. "You want to move Earth itself?" Captain Minji said in disbelief. "Not just move it," Dr. Tayan replied. "Turn it into a spaceship." "We have been building the infrastructure for decades. The engines are hidden beneath the polar ice caps. The power systems are disguised as research stations. The gravitational manipulators are installed in deep ocean trenches." Commander Jiwoo stared at the plans, trying to understand what he was seeing. "This is insane," he said. "You want to turn our entire planet into a spacecraft and fly it away from these aliens?" D'Artagnan nodded enthusiastically. "It's not insane, it's brilliant. Think about it. The Empire expects us to either fight or surrender. They have probably conquered thousands of worlds using the same tactics. But has anyone ever tried to steal an entire planet right out from under them?" The idea was so outrageous that it actually began to make sense. Admiral Hyok studied the technical specifications on the screen. "How long would it take to prepare? The systems are already in place." Dr. Taiyun explained, "We would need about 6 days to bring everything online and coordinate the launch sequence. It would be the most complex operation in human history, but it is possible." Young engineer Sunwoo entered the bridge carrying additional data pads. She was one of Dr. Taeyeon's top assistants and had been working on the engine systems for years. "The thrust calculations are complete," she announced. "We can achieve escape velocity, but it will require enormous amounts of energy." Dr. Kungman, the fusion reactor specialist, was right behind her. "The new reactors are ready," he said. "They can provide the power we need, but we have never tested them at this scale. If something goes wrong, we could destroy the planet we are trying to save." "The risks are enormous," Captain Mingi said, "but the alternative is slavery or death for our entire species. At least this way we have a chance." Commander Jiwoo looked around the bridge at his crew, at the scientists and engineers who had spent their lives preparing for this moment, and at the tactical displays showing the alien fleet waiting above them. The decision was clear. "We do it," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We show these aliens that humans will not bow down to bullies. We take our planet and we run. The next 6 days would test everything humanity had learned about science, engineering, and cooperation, but they had something the Galactic Empire did not expect. They had the courage to attempt the impossible and the skill to make it work. Earth was about to become the first planet in galactic history to simply fly away from its conquerors." Dr. Taeyeon had not slept in 3 days, but his eyes were bright with excitement as he worked in the secret laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice. The laboratory was massive, stretching for miles in every direction. It had been built over decades by thousands of workers who believed they were constructing research facilities for studying climate change. They had no idea they were actually building the most ambitious project in human history. Engineer Sun Woo stood beside him, reviewing the engine specifications for the 1,000th time. The engines were incredible works of engineering, each one as tall as a skyscraper and powerful enough to move mountains. They were built directly into the Earth's crust using materials that had been secretly mined from asteroids and developed in hidden facilities around the world. "The engines will work," she said, her voice filled with confidence. "We have tested smaller versions and the physics are sound, but we need to be careful about the ignition sequence. If we fire them in the wrong order, we could crack the planet in half." Captain Minji arrived at the laboratory with a team of military engineers. She had been working non-stop to coordinate the defense of the project. The alien fleet was still orbiting Earth, and their commander was growing impatient. The Empire was not used to waiting for tribute, and their ships were beginning to move into more aggressive positions. "How long do we have, Captain?" Mingi asked Dr. Taeyeon. "For more days," he replied without looking up from his calculations. "The engines need to be synchronized perfectly with the gravitational manipulators. If we start too early or too late, the planet will be torn apart by the forces we are trying to control." Dr. Yeji, the communications expert, had been monitoring alien transmissions from her command center. She had intercepted several messages between the Empire's ships and their home base. The aliens were discussing whether to begin their attack early. If Earth continued to delay, they are getting suspicious, Dr. Yeji reported to the team. "The Empire commander has been trying to contact our government for status updates." Admiral Hayok has been giving them false information about gathering resources, but they are not believing him anymore. Admiral Hayok had been playing a dangerous game of deception. He had been telling the alien commander that Earth was preparing to comply with their demands, while secretly buying time for Project Exodus to be completed. Every conversation with the aliens was a risk. If they discovered what Earth was really planning, they would attack immediately. Hardest part of the plan was keeping it secret from the billions of people living on Earth. Only the top government officials and military leaders knew what was happening. Everyone else had been told that the alien threat was being negotiated, and that there was no immediate danger. Dark Youngman worked in the fusion reactor facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. The reactors were unlike anything that had ever been built before. They used a new type of fusion that could produce incredible amounts of energy without the dangerous radiation that had plagued earlier designs. "The power systems are ready," he reported. To Dr. Taeon, "The reactors can provide enough energy to move Earth, but we need to be careful about the heat they will generate. We have cooling systems in place, but they have never been tested at this scale." Young pilot Dongwoo had been training with the new navigation systems that would guide Earth through space. The systems were incredibly complex, requiring precise calculations to avoid asteroids, comets, and other space debris. The slightest mistake could send Earth spinning out of control or crashing into another planet. "It's like trying to fly a ship the size of a world," he said to his training partner. "The navigation computers are powerful, but they need constant input from human operators. We can't rely on automation for something this important." The preparation work was enormous and dangerous. Teams of workers labored around the clock to prepare systems that had never been tested at full scale. The engines required massive amounts of fuel that had to be transported secretly to the polar regions. The gravitational manipulators needed to be calibrated to work together across the entire planet. Planet Professor Yeji had been working with communication teams to prepare for the moment when Earth would leave the solar system. Needed to send messages to any other human colonies or space stations warning them about what was happening. Most of these outposts were small and could not defend themselves against the Empire. "We need to warn everyone," she said to Commander Jiwoo. "When we move Earth, we will be leaving behind anyone who is not on the planet. They need to know what is happening so they can hide or escape them." Psychological pressure on the team was intense. Everyone knew that if they failed, the entire human race would be enslaved or destroyed. They were attempting something that had never been tried before in the history of the galaxy, moving an entire planet with all its people, animals, and ecosystems. Intakdar Taiyun gathered his team for a final briefing. 3 days before the planned launch, the room was filled with the best scientists and engineers that humanity had ever produced. People who had devoted their lives to making the impossible possible. "Tomorrow, we begin the final preparations," he announced. To the group, "We have built something amazing here, but building it was the easy part. Now we have to make it work. The engines are ready, the power systems are online, and the navigation computers are." Programmed engineer Sunwoo raised her hand. "What? If the aliens detect what we are doing before we can escape, then we fight," Captain Minji answered from the back of the room. "We have prepared for that possibility. Our defense fleet is ready to buy time if necessary, but our best chance is to complete the launch before they realize what is happening." The meeting ended with everyone understanding their role in the coming operation. Dr. Taeon would coordinate the engine ignition sequence. Engineer Sunwoo would monitor the power systems. Captain Mingi would command the defenses. Dr. Yaji would handle communications, and young pilot Dongwoo would guide Earth through its first steps into spaces. The team dispersed to their final preparations. None of them could sleep. The next few days would determine whether humanity would find freedom among the stars or face destruction for their defiance. The Empire had never encountered anything like Project Exodus, and humanity was about to find out if their desperate plan would work. The countdown to Earth's escape had begun. The day of escape arrived with tension thick in the air throughout every command center on Earth. Commander Jiwoo stood on the bridge of the main control station, watching as hundreds of technicians prepared for the most dangerous operation in human history. The alien fleet still hung in the sky like dark clouds, waiting for Earth's surrender that would never come. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Taeon gave the order to begin the startup sequence. The massive engines that had been hidden for decades began to hum with power. The sound was unlike anything anyone had ever heard, a deep rumbling that seemed to come from the very core of the planet. Itself, all stations report ready, Engineer Sun Wu announced from her position at the engine control center. The fusion reactors were operating at full capacity, sending incredible amounts of energy through cables and conduits that stretched across continents. The power flow was so intense that the monitoring equipment struggled to keep up with the readings. At the navigation center, pilot Dong Wu watched his screens as they displayed the precise calculations needed to move Earth safely away from the sun. The gravitational forces involved were enormous, and the slightest error could send the planet spinning into space or crashing into another world. In the solar system, navigation systems are online and ready, he reported to Commander Jiwoo. The course is plotted and the computers are standing by for the launch sequence. Captain Mingi commanded the defense forces from her position aboard the lead battleship. The human fleet was small compared to the alien armada, but they were faster and more maneuverable. The plan was to keep the Empire ships busy while Earth began its escape sequence. On the main screen, Commander Jiwoo watched as the first phase of the escape began. The gravitational manipulators activated, sending invisible forces through the planet that would slowly break Earth's bond with the sun. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The planet continued its normal rotation, and the alien ships showed no signs of alarm. Dr. Taeon monitored the gravitational readings from his underground command center. The manipulators were working perfectly, slowly weakening the forces that had held Earth in orbit for billions of years. The process had to be gradual to avoid tearing the planet apart. Gravitational bond weakening at optimal rate, he reported. The planet is beginning to respond to the engine thrust. We should have movement in approximately 10 minutes. The alien commander aboard the lead Empire ship was the first to notice that something was wrong. Sensors detected unusual energy readings coming from the planet's surface. The readings were unlike anything the Empire had encountered before in their conquest of thousands of worlds. Commander Vex contacted his science officer. What are these energy signatures coming from the planet? The science officer studied his instruments with growing alarm. Commander, I believe they are attempting to move their entire world. The energy patterns suggest massive propulsion systems and gravitational manipulation. The alien commander could not believe what he was hearing. No species had ever attempted anything so insane. Moving a planet was theoretically possible, but the energy requirements were enormous, and the risk of destroying the world in the process was extremely high. Stop whatever they are doing immediately. Commander Vex ordered his fleet open fire on the energy sources. Destroy their propulsion systems before they can complete whatever madness they are attempting. The Empire ships began firing their powerful weapons at the locations where they detected the strongest energy signatures. But the humans had prepared for this possibility. The engine installations were buried deep underground and protected by layers of armor and defensive shields. Captain Mingi launched the Earth defense fleet at the same moment the aliens began their attack. The human ships were outnumbered 50-1, but they used speed and surprise to strike at the Empire vessels before they could coordinate their assault. Earth defense fleet engaging the enemy. Captain Minji reported over the communication system. All units focus on the command ships. We need to disrupt their ability to coordinate the attack. The battle was fierce but brief. The human pilots flew their ships with desperate courage, knowing that the fate of their entire species depended on buying time for the escape sequence. Earth ships darted between the massive alien vessels, striking at weapon systems and communication arrays before disappearing into the darkness of space. Meanwhile, the planet itself was beginning to move. Engineer Sun Wu watched her instruments as Earth slowly started to break free from its ancient orbit. The engines were working perfectly, providing the enormous thrust needed to overcome the sun's gravitational pull. Planet movement confirmed, she announced. With excitement in her voice, we are achieving escape velocity. The gravitational manipulators are holding the planet together, and the engines are providing steady acceleration. Arteon felt a moment of pure joy as he watched the readings that showed his life's work was succeeding, but the joy was mixed with fear because the most dangerous part of the operation was still ahead. As Earth gained speed, the stresses on the planet would increase dramatically, engine temperature rising to critical levels. He reported the cooling systems are working, but we are pushing everything beyond design limits. We need to maintain power for another hour to achieve full escape velocity. The alien fleet tried desperately to follow the escaping planet, but Earth was accelerating faster than they had thought possible. The Empire ships were designed for space combat, not for chasing runaway worlds. Their engines could not match the incredible power of the planetary propulsion system. Young pilot Dongwu guided Earth through the complex navigation sequence needed to avoid the other planets in the solar system. The course had been calculated months in advance, but space was full of unexpected dangers that required constant adjustments. We are approaching Mars orbit, he announced, adjusting course to avoid gravitational interference, all systems responding normally. As Earth gained speed, something unexpected happened. The planet's magnetic field began to interact with the engine systems, creating a protective energy barrier around the entire world. The barrier deflected the alien weapons and made it even harder for the Empire ships to follow Dr. Yaji monitored the energy barrier from her communications center. "This is incredible," she reported. "The magnetic field is amplifying the engine output. We are not just moving Earth, we are turning it into a fortress that can defend itself, Commander." Vex watched in disbelief as an entire planet simply flew away from his fleet. No species in the history of the Galactic Empire had ever attempted anything so bold or so impossible. His ships tried to follow, but Earth was now moving faster than they could match. The escape was working. Earth had broken free from the solar system and was accelerating toward the outer reaches of space. The alien fleet fell behind, unable to match the incredible speed of the runaway planet. Commander Jiwoo addressed the entire planet over the emergency broadcast system. "People of Earth, we have done it. We have escaped the Galactic Empire, and we are free, but our journey is just beginning. We are now traveling through space itself, and we must work together to find a new home among the stars." The impossible had become reality. Earth was no longer bound to the sun, but was sailing free through the galaxy, carrying all of humanity toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Earth sailed through the darkness of space like a ship that had never been built before. The planet moved past stars that had been distant points of light for all of human history. Stars that had once taken years to reach were now passing by in weeks as Earth traveled faster than any spacecraft ever built. Navigator Dongwu worked around the clock in the navigation center, plotting courses through regions of space that no human had ever seen. The journey was like being an explorer in ancient times, but instead of crossing unknown oceans, they were crossing the vast emptiness between stars. "We are approaching the Centauri system," he announced to the control room. "The stars are much brighter now, and we can see planets orbiting them, but we need to be careful about gravitational effects. Our speed is so high that even small attractions could pull us off course." Dr. Taeon monitored the engine systems that continued to push Earth through space. The engines were working perfectly, but they were operating beyond anything they had been designed for. The heat generated was enormous, and the cooling systems were struggling to keep up with the demand. "Efficiency holding steady," he reported to Commander Jiwoo. "The fusion reactors are performing better than expected. We have enough fuel to maintain speed for several more months." The people of Earth were learning to live on a planet that was traveling through space. Most had adapted well to the idea that they were now explorers on a cosmic journey, but some were frightened by the vast distances and the unknown dangers they might encounter. Dr. Yaji managed the communication systems that kept everyone informed about their progress. She broadcast daily updates about their location and the discoveries they were making as they traveled between stars. The broadcasts helped maintain morale and keep everyone focused on their shared mission today. "We passed through a region of space filled with cosmic dust," she announced. During her daily broadcast, the dust created beautiful aurora displays in our atmosphere and reminded us that we are seeing things no human has ever witnessed before. The journey was not without dangers. Earth had to navigate through asteroid fields, avoid cosmic radiation storms, and carefully manage its trajectory to prevent collisions with space debris. The planet was tough, but it was not invincible. Captain Mingi organized teams to monitor for threats and respond to emergencies. The military had been reorganized into a space defense force that could protect Earth from cosmic hazards rather than enemy ships. "We detected a large asteroid cluster ahead," she reported during a planning meeting. "We need to adjust course to avoid it. The debris field extends for millions of miles, and some of the rocks are the size of mountains near Kunming. worked to optimize the fusion reactors that powered their journey. The reactors were performing well, but they needed constant maintenance to keep them running at peak efficiency. The energy requirements for moving a planet were unlike anything ever attempted. Reactors are stable, but we need to be careful about fuel consumption, he warned the team. We have enough fusion material for a long journey, but we cannot waste energy on unnecessary course corrections. The most amazing discovery came when Dr. Yaji detected signals from other planets in the region. They were not alone in space. Other worlds were broadcasting messages, and some of them seemed to be from civilizations that had also escaped the Galactic Empire. And picking up transmissions from at least a dozen different sources, she announced with excitement. Some of the signals are in languages we do not recognize, but others are using mathematical concepts that suggest intelligence. Commander Jiwoo realized that Earth might not be the only world that had chosen to run rather than fight. The galaxy might be full of escaped planets all trying to find freedom away from the Empire. The idea was both exciting and comforting. Open communication channels, he ordered Dr. Yaji. Let these other worlds know that Earth is here and that we are looking for allies. We may have started something much bigger than just saving ourselves. The communications that followed were historic. Earth made contact with 17 other worlds that had escaped Imperial control. Each planet had its own story of resistance and escape. Some had developed invisibility technology, others had built massive space fortresses, and a few had created artificial worlds and regions. The Empire could not find young pilot Dongwu was chosen to represent Earth in the first interplanetary meeting held in space. The meeting took place on a neutral space station that had been built by the escaped worlds as a gathering place. The station was incredible, a massive structure that rotated slowly in space, providing artificial gravity for the representatives from different worlds. Dongwu had never seen anything like it, and he was proud to speak for humanity. Earth brings greetings to all free worlds, he said during the opening session. We have proven that escape is possible and that the Empire can be defied. We hope to work together to ensure that freedom survives in the galaxy. The meeting led to the formation of the Free Worlds Alliance, a confederation of planets that had rejected Imperial rule. The alliance would share technology, resources, and military support to help defend against future Empire attacks. Engineer Sunwoo was amazed by the technology sharing that began immediately after the alliance was formed. Other worlds had developed improvements to the planetary engines that could make Earth faster and more efficient. We can increase our speed by 30%, she reported after studying the new technology. The modifications are simple, but we never thought of them. The advantages of working with other brilliant minds are incredible. As Earth continued its journey through space, crew realized they were part of something much larger than they had imagined. They were not just refugees running from the Empire. They were pioneers creating a new way of life among the stars. The journey was changing everyone aboard. Earth people were learning to think of themselves as citizens of the galaxy rather than just citizens of one world. The experience of traveling between stars was expanding their minds and their dreams. D'Artagnan looked out at the stars streaming past Earth and smiled. They had done more than escape the Empire. They had discovered that freedom was contagious and that courage could spread from world to world. The journey was far from over, but Earth was no longer traveling alone. They were part of a community of free worlds that would never again bow to tyranny. Earth arrived at the secret region of space where the Free Worlds Alliance had established their hidden base. The region was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Dozens of planets moved in careful orbits around artificial stars that had been built by the escaped worlds. Each planet was different. Some were covered in gleaming cities, others were wild and natural, and a few were completely artificial constructions. Commander Jiwoo stood on the observation deck watching as Earth took its place among the free worlds. The sight was breathtaking. Planets that had once been scattered across the galaxy were now gathered together in a region that the Ost Empire could not find. Admiral Hyok represented Earth at the first major meeting of the UHS Alliance Council. The council chamber was built into a massive space station that served as the capital of the free worlds. Representatives from 30 different species and cultures gathered to discuss their shared future. The diversity was incredible. Captain Mingy observed as she watched the proceedings. Some of the beings were humanoid, others were completely alien in appearance, but they all shared the same determination to remain free from Imperial control. The Alliance had been busy during the time it took Earth to arrive. They had established trade routes between the world's shared technology and resources, and begun coordinating their defenses against the Empire. Each world contributed something unique to the collective strength. Dr. Taeon was amazed by the advanced technology that other worlds had developed. A crystal-based species from the Vega system had created energy shields that could protect entire planets. Machine civilization had built self-repairing spacecraft that could operate for centuries without maintenance. The technology sharing is incredible, he reported to Commander Jiwoo. We are learning more in a few weeks than we discovered in decades of research on our own. These other worlds have solutions. Two problems we never even knew existed. Engineer Sunwoo worked with specialists from other worlds to upgrade Earth's propulsion systems. The improvements were dramatic. Earth could now travel faster and with less energy consumption than ever before. The planet was becoming a more efficient and capable spacecraft. We can now reach twice our previous speed, she announced with pride. The new engine modifications use principles we never understood before. Working with the Alliance has made us much more powerful. The Alliance was not just about technology sharing. Each world had developed different approaches to government, education, and social organization. Earth learned about new ways to organize society that could work on a planet-sized spacecraft. Dr. Yeji established communication networks that connected all the Alliance worlds. Information could now travel instantly between planets that were light years apart. The network allowed for coordination that had never been possible before. First time in galactic history, there is a way for free peoples to work together, she explained to the Earth Council. The Empire has always kept worlds isolated and afraid, but now we can share knowledge and support each other. Captain Mingi helped organize the Alliance military forces. The combined fleet was impressive, thousands of ships from dozens of worlds, all working together to defend their freedom. The ships were as diverse as the worlds they came from, but they shared common communication systems and battle tactics. We are no longer just running from the Empire, she told the military commanders. We are building something they have never faced before, a united front of free worlds that can fight back. Young pilot Dongwoo joined the Alliance Rapid Response Fleet. These ships could travel quickly between the hidden worlds, carrying messages, supplies, and emergency assistance. The fleet was like the nervous system of the Alliance, keeping all the worlds connected and informed the Alliance. Worlds had also developed new approaches to education and culture. Earth children began learning about other species and civilizations, expanding their understanding of what was possible in the galaxy. The cultural exchange was enriching life for everyone. Dear Kungmin worked with fusion specialists from other worlds to develop even more efficient energy systems. The new reactors could power entire civilizations while producing almost no waste. The technology would allow the Alliance worlds to grow and prosper, but the Alliance faced challenges as well. The Empire was searching for the escaped worlds, and their scout ships were getting closer to the hidden region. The Alliance knew they could not hide forever. Eventually, they would have to face the Empire directly. The Empire scouts are becoming more systematic in their search patterns, reported. Alliance Intelligence Officer, Commander X, is personally leading the search for the escaped worlds. He has been promoted after losing. Earthany is determined to find us. The Alliance began preparing for the inevitable confrontation.
Ow.
Each world contributed to the defense planning and the construction of new weapons and shields. The free worlds were no longer helpless refugees. They were becoming a powerful force. The most important development was the sense of unity that was growing among the Alliance worlds. Despite their differences in appearance, culture, and technology, they were all committed to the same goal: freedom from Imperial tyranny. Admiral Hyok spoke to the Alliance Council about the significance of their achievement. You have all proven that escape is possible, he said, but more importantly, you have shown that free peoples can work together. When we first ran from the Empire, we thought we were alone. Now, we know that freedom is contagious. The Alliance was growing stronger every day. New worlds were making contact and joining the Confederation. The hidden region was becoming crowded with planets that had chosen freedom over submission. The most remarkable thing about the Alliance was how quickly the different worlds learned to work together. Despite having evolved on different planets, under different conditions, they shared the same basic desire. For freedom and self-determination, Commander Jiwoo often walked through the Alliance space station, marveling at the diversity of beings who had come together for a common cause. There were crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns, gaseous creatures who existed as living clouds, and mechanical intelligences that had achieved consciousness. The Alliance had also developed new forms of art, music, and literature that combined elements from all the member worlds. Earth musicians worked with alien composers to create sounds that had never existed before. The cultural flowering was as important as the technological advances, but everyone knew that the peaceful time was limited. The Empire was closing in, and the final confrontation was approaching. The Alliance had to decide whether to keep running or to make a stand. The decision would determine the future of freedom in the galaxy. The Alliance Council met an emergency session as reports came in of Empire scout ships getting closer to their hidden region. The discussion was intense, with some worlds wanting to scatter and others demanding that they fight. Together, Earth has shown us that escape is possible, said the representative from New Vega, but we cannot run forever. Eventually, we must face the Empire and show them that free peoples will not be conquered. Admiral Hyok stood to address the Council. Earth supports whatever decision the Alliance makes, he said, but we believe that our strength comes from unity. If we scatter now, we will be defeated one by one. If we stand together, we have a chance to win. The vote was close, but the Alliance decided to prepare for battle. They would make their stand in the hidden region and show the Empire that freedom was worth fighting for. The decision changed everything. The Alliance was no longer just a group of refugees, they were now a military force. Captain Minji worked with military leaders from all the Alliance worlds to develop battle plans. The combined fleet was impressive, but they were still outnumbered by the Empire. The key would be to use their superior technology and coordination to overcome the numerical disadvantage. We have advantages the Empire does not expect, she explained to the War Council. Our ships can work together better than theirs, our technology is more advanced, and our crews are fighting for their homes and families. Alliance began the largest military buildup in galactic history. Planets that had been focused on research and development now turned their attention to building weapons and defenses. The free worlds were preparing for the war that would determine their survival. Young pilot Dongwoo was promoted to squadron leader in the Alliance fleet. He would command a mixed unit of ships from different worlds, each with its own capabilities and fighting style. The diversity was challenging, but it was also a source of strength. Are not just fighting for our own worlds anymore, he told his squadron. We are fighting for the idea that intelligent beings should be free to choose their own destiny. The Empire represents everything we oppose to. Arteon worked with scientists from other worlds to develop new weapons that could be effective against Empire ships. The collaboration produced innovations that no single world could have achieved alone. The Alliance was becoming more than the sum of its parts. The preparations were almost complete when the Empire fleet was finally detected approaching. The hidden region, the largest invasion force in galactic history, was coming to destroy the Alliance once and for all. The final battle for freedom was about to begin. The Empire fleet that approached the Alliance region was beyond anything anyone had imagined. Commander Vex had assembled over 10,000 ships from across the galaxy. The fleet was so large that it blocked out entire star systems as it moved through space. The Empire had decided to end the rebellion permanently. Commander Jiwoo stood on the bridge of Earth, watching the enemy fleet approach on the long-range sensors. The sight was terrifying, but also strangely inspiring. The Empire had brought everything they had, which meant they were taking the Alliance seriously as a threat. This is what we have been preparing for, he announced to his crew. Today we find out if freedom is stronger than fear, if something the Empire does not expect. We have the courage of people who would rather die than surrender. The Alliance had prepared the hidden region as a fortress. Artificial defense stations orbited the Alliance worlds, providing additional firepower and protection. The planets themselves had been equipped with powerful weapons that could destroy entire squadrons of enemy ships. Captain Minji coordinated the defense from the central command station. The Alliance fleet was positioned in carefully planned formations designed to maximize their technological advantages. Each ship knew its role in the larger battle plan. "We are outnumbered 10-1, she reported to the Alliance commanders, "but we have superior technology. It's better coordination and crews who are fighting. For their homes, the Empire has numbers, but we have heart." The battle began when the Empire fleet entered the outer edge of the Alliance region. The first wave of attacks came from the Alliance long-range weapons systems. Powerful energy beams reached across space to strike at the enemy ships before they could get close enough to return fire. Dr. Teon had developed new gravitational weapons that could disable entire formations of enemy ships. The weapons created artificial gravity fields that crushed the Empire vessels or sent them spinning out of control. The technology was devastating and completely unexpected. The Empire forces were confused by the weapons they had never encountered before. Commander Vex had expected a conventional battle, but the Alliance was fighting with technology that seemed to come from science fiction. The Empire's ships began to suffer heavy casualties. Engineer Sunwoo monitored the planetary defense systems as Earth and the other Alliance worlds joined. The planets moved in coordinated patterns using their massive engines to avoid enemy fire while striking back with weapons that could destroy capital ships. "The Alliance worlds are fighting as one unit," she reported with excitement. "The coordination is perfect. Each planet is supporting the others and the combined firepower is incredible." The Empire fleet tried to use their numerical advantage by attacking from multiple directions at once, but the Alliance had prepared for this tactic. Their ships could communicate instantly across the entire battlefield and coordinate their responses faster than the Empire could adapt. Young pilot Dongwu led his squadron in a desperate attack on the Empire command ship. His mixed unit of Alliance vessels used their different capabilities to penetrate the enemy defenses. The attack was dangerous, but it was necessary to disrupt the Empire coordination. "We are breaking through the enemy lines," he reported as his squadron fought its way toward the command ship. "The Empire defenses are strong, but they are not prepared for our combined tactics." The battle reached its climax when the Alliance worlds themselves entered the fight. The planets used their massive engines as weapons, creating energy beams that could destroy entire fleets. The sight of worlds fighting as spaceships was unlike anything in galactic history. Dr. Yeji coordinated the communication systems that allowed the Alliance to fight as one organism the instant. Communication gave them a huge advantage over the Empire forces, which relied on slower traditional systems. "The Empire forces are losing coordination," she reported. "The Alliance unity is overwhelming their ability to respond. Our combined strength is greater than they expected." Commander Vex watched in disbelief as his massive fleet was systematically destroyed by the Alliance forces. He had brought the largest invasion force in galactic history, but it was not enough. The free worlds were fighting with a determination and skill that the Empire could not match. The turning point came when young pilot Dongwu and his squadron reached the Empire command ship. They managed to disable the communication systems that coordinated the entire invasion fleet. Without central command, the Empire ships began to fight as individuals rather than as a unified force. "Mission accomplished," Dongwu reported as his squadron escaped from the crippled command ship. "The Empire fleet is losing coordination. They are vulnerable to our coordinated attacks." The Alliance pressed their advantage, launching coordinated strikes against the confused Empire forces. The battle turned into a rout as Empire ships began to retreat or surrender, the largest invasion force in galactic history was being defeated by the United Free Worlds. Captain Minji watched the tactical display as the Empire retreat began. "They came here to destroy us," she said with satisfaction, "but instead they have learned that free peoples cannot be conquered. We have won more than a battle, we have won a war." The Empire fleet that limped away from the Alliance region was barely a fraction of the force that had arrived. Commander Vex had lost not only most of his ships, but also the myth of Empire invincibility. The defeat would encourage rebellions throughout the galaxy. The Alliance victory was complete, but the cost had been high. Many brave pilots and crews had died to defend freedom. The survivors honored their sacrifice by committing to spread the message of freedom throughout the galaxy. Admiral Hayok addressed the Alliance Council after the battle. "We have proven that even the mightiest empire can be defeated by people who refuse to surrender their freedom. Our victory here will inspire others to resist tyranny." The news of the Alliance victory spread throughout the galaxy faster than the Empire could suppress it. On countless worlds, oppressed peoples began to rise up against their imperial overlords. The age of the Galactic Empire was ending. Earth had started the rebellion by choosing to run rather than fight. But running had led to something greater than anyone had imagined. The free worlds had created a new model of civilization based on cooperation, voluntary association, and mutual defense. Dr. Tyon looked out at the stars surrounding the Alliance region and smiled. They had done more than save their own worlds. They had changed the nature of galactic civilization forever after. Intelligent beings would know that freedom was possible and that tyrants could be defeated. The Alliance began the work of helping other worlds escape from imperial control. The technology and tactics that had saved them were shared freely with any world that wanted to be free. The rebellion was spreading across the galaxy. Commander Ji Woo stood on the observation deck of Earth, watching as new worlds arrived at the Alliance region. Every day, the hidden region was becoming the capital of a new galactic civilization based on freedom rather than fear. Young pilot Dong Wu was promoted to admiral and given command of the Alliance Liberation Fleet. His mission was to help other worlds escape from imperial control and to defend the growing community of free worlds. The Empire still existed, but it was no longer the dominant force in the galaxy. The Alliance had proven that there was an alternative to tyranny, and that alternative was spreading rapidly throughout the stars years later. When historians studied the rebellion, they would trace its beginning to the moment when Earth chose to run rather than fight. That decision had seemed like cowardice to some, but it had actually been the beginning of the greatest revolution in galactic history. The Free Worlds Alliance grew to include thousands of worlds, each contributing to the collective strength and sharing in the collective freedom. The galaxy was no longer divided between rulers and subjects, but between free beings. Working together for their common good, Earth had kept its promise to show the galaxy that humans would not bow to bullies. But in the end, they had done much more than that. They had helped create a new age of freedom that would last for generations. To come, the stars that had once seemed cold and distant were now filled with the light of free worlds working together. The galaxy had been transformed, and it all began with one simple decision: to run rather than surrender.